Good evening and welcome. Uh, I'm Bob Pace. I'm your host, and this is a live broadcast about how to fight CPS and save your children. Sorry, a little bit of delay, but apparently the show that I had it was mislabeled. So hopefully we'll get some people that come in here. Um, you have you've seen this live broadcast that is via Facebook on YouTube, and it's being broadcast live from Southern California. And I'd like to go over some housekeeping rules and things. And the first thing I like to mention is that if you wanted to make a comment while the show's going on, what you can do is just text your comment in the space below the comment section, type your name and the city and the state you're calling from. And if you're calling from a country, I like to know the country and the city. And what you need to do is explain your allegations and how many children this involves, and then what question I can answer you. It's very important that you pull that information, and then I can go ahead and put the comments on the screen so you can see them and try to answer as best we can. Now, I was supposed to have a guest tonight, but I don't see the guest. So they may be coming a little bit later. But if you want to be a guest on the show, you can call right now at 626 698 0990. That's my office phone. And what I will do is that I will broadcast it live on the show. And you can be able to ask your questions and be a guest speaker. That's another way. And of course, the other way is if you can't talk right now, and you need to, um, and you need to, you need more time. You can go onto my show by calling my other office phone, 888-888-6582, and that'll get you to my office. And make sure when you call into my office, you say Bob Pace sent you. It's very important you do so. And then you pick the times. My shows are 7 days a week. They're on at 10 o'clock in the morning and on at 7 o'clock at night. They last about an hour, and it's Pacific Standard Time. One exception to the rule: on Sunday, my show is delayed by half an hour because there's another show that takes place, and I want a little bit of transition between the shows. So with that being said, those are the schedules, and those are what you can pick the times to talk on. So besides texting a comment or calling in at 626-698-0990, or call my office at 888-888-6582 to be a guest speaker on the show. Now, in all CPS matters, it's very, very important that you have a very, very needed tool. Now, if you can picture a doctor doing open heart surgery, you can picture you yourself doing open heart surgery or having somebody else, a layman, do it. Your life is in danger. Well, I'm afraid that the Child Protection Services, the branch of social services, will you will need a attorney, a professional attorney, to navigate and know the laws and save your children and bring back your children. Because like a doctor goes through a lot. It goes through the medical school, internship, and then there's residency before they are doing a open heart surgery. So it's a long way. Plus they have a license and skills and everything there. You need an attorney, and we have an attorney here at this law firm. This attorney is um, Vincent W. Davis, and he is a professional licensed family law attorney with years' experience of fighting CPS and getting the kids back And also, he can sue CPS. He has sued CPS and won. And so he's somebody that you would want to talk to. And right now, he's offering you at no charge a free consultation to discuss with him your strategies about how to fight CPS and get your children. He also um, he normally it's charged, but if you say my name, Bob Pace, when you call in 888-888-6582, and say my name, Bob Pace, they'll set you up. Now there's a ticket right at the bottom of the screen. That's his calendar. It's a website. You go there and check to see when he's available. Now, it's very important that you tell him my name so you don't get charged. Also, you need to tell Mr. Davis that Bob Pace sent you, so that the whole thing will help you. And also, when you get done with him, you're probably going to want to retain him, because the attorney that you're going to get in this case will be a court-appointed attorney. It's a public defender, and they usually have a caseload of 20 more people, and they won't really do you very well. They won't fight for you. Plus, they're friends with the social services, and they're very inexperienced. And you're going to have some rude awakening about CPS. I did. I made some horrible mistakes before I got my attorney. And you're going to find that it starts off with allegations. And these allegations are the worst things that you're going to experience, because these allegations that are called into CPS have to be investigated within 24 hours. They got to be starting on the case, opening up the case, and check them. Right now, these allegations are considered true until you're proven innocent. Like with other criminal matters, you're innocent before you're proven guilty. But in the dependency court, the family law court, with the juveniles and so forth, you are guilty of the allegations, no matter how ridiculous they sound or how far that they're from. You definitely are. Um, uh, you definitely are at their mercy. And I'm trying to tell you this because CPS will not be your friend. They lie, and they are very non-transparent. They're very deceiving, and they want nothing more than to steal your children. I mean, steal your children and keep them, because they get a lot of money for your child when they're in the service. And this is all it takes from my experience in Southern California. Now, I have talked to over 100 people here, and they have told me the same thing. Whether they're in Maine or whether in Florida or Texas, the same thing is happening to them. The same thing is happening to them. And um, it's a horrible thing to go in there. So it's important for you to hire an attorney right away when you get involved, because right now, if you're involved in a CPS matter, you don't have to have them in your home. You don't have to have the police in your home. You don't have to speak to them. They need a warrant, a court-ordered warrant, to investigate your home or to get in your home. And for the police too. What CPS here and other cases are notorious of using the police as shields to have them kind of muscle in past you and take advantage of what you don't know. There are a lot of things that's very hard to navigate through CPS, and know all the laws, the forms, and everything. And you need to um, think of the word is that you need a professional attorney, and if you have one, it's going to make your life so much better. I wish I had one. I eventually had to mortgage my home or sell my home to get money to take care of my kids. CPS, not only did they steal my kids after 5 years of attempting to try to get them, they also, I lost my home, and it's all because I had a perfect storm brewing. I lost my job in 2010 through no fault of my own, and I was trying to get work, and little did I know that some family members were making allegations against our family. Instead of trying to help out the family, they were saying some allegations like, oh, they don't pay their electricity or water or trash or refuge. They don't have food for the kids. They don't take them to school. They don't dress them. There's a long list of stuff that they made, and they did that over a course of 5 years. And at first, I let them in the house, and they could see nothing was wrong or so forth. But besides me lose my job in 2007, um, I experienced a major loss of my retirement because the banks were going through uh, um, they're going through bankruptcy and falling apart because of all the predatory loans, which I found that I had one. I had a predatory loan. A predatory loan is where they change the documents, change your income so that you can qualify, and so that's a fat bonus. So there's no control over it, and banks were wheeling out loans like it was free money, and so suddenly we had all these loans that weren't being paid on and failing, and then the banks collapse. So that's going on. I lost my job through fault of my own. I had done a lot of work. I got a lot of contract work for the Public Works Department in the state of California, and I had a backlog, but they wouldn't start the jobs because they wanted to use that money because they were going bankrupt. Detroit, Michigan was going bankrupt. State of California is going bankrupt. State of California thought they'd get really tricky there and use the money that's for public funds and write me an IOU. And I even tried to go to the banks for IOUs, and they didn't want to help me. So with that being said, um, I had to close up being a general contractor and face realization. Also, it was hard doing so because um, I had a family to take care of and a house payment and everything else. And as my perfect storm was brewing and getting worse and worse, I was laid off in 2010. Well, my parents were suddenly turning the worst at about that period, and they ended up dying in my dad in 2013, and my mom shortly after that. And that was sad because I had to deal with them requesting me to take their belongings. And when you take my parents' belongings, it was really, really, really tough. Um, the I had no money for storage. Instead of uh, social services, hey, we'll give you some money for storage or help you go through the things, I put everything in storage there. And then they said that, no, I didn't put it in storage, but I put my things at my home, first out on the car apron with a tarp over it. And then I was told to put it inside my home, in my yard, my front porch, because the association, I had CCNRs and it was private there. And so I was really saddened by the fact that um, I wasn't getting help with them. I no longer let them in my house because my parents' belongings were an eyesore, and I knew that there were some boxes and there were some furniture stacked and so forth. And while I was out in the yard, and some was getting ruined and everything on there. But I was struggling trying to find work, and it's very hard at age 60 on 65 looking for work. They don't want to hire older people, and it's the hardest thing to look for a job, and especially at that age because I'd worked a long time. I'd worked already over 40 years, and I'd started working when I was 15 and always paid for my bills, my own homes, and never owed any money till I started buying homes. That's the first time I owed money, but my credit cards and everything was always paid off, and my cars were paid off and stuff. So anyway, I was now faced with the fact of dealing with this agency I knew nothing about, and with these accusations coming from my wife's family members, and dealing with my parents' belongings, and looking for work, and very little money. And that's a hard thing. A lot of you are faced with the same thing. Little money is really, 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 really hard. Um, I know it's really hard out there. I feel for you. I sympathize with you. And so it's a really struggle. And I wish I'd known about getting a lawyer because that would have saved me because I have 6 children. 3 older ones are doing quite well later in life. The 3 younger ones are okay. Um, but I lost our daughter. Our daughter decided to divorce us, and that was a sad thing in there. My 2 boys wanted to come home and try to do things, and they've been struggling too. I think sometimes the social service affected them. I know that there's things with me and my wife that may have affected them and stuff, and I found that out by going through um, social services. And one thing I like to point out is that it's important that you do not argue in front of your children or yell in front of your children. That is a no-no. You should never do that. You should control your anger and do a timeout. Either go for a walk or uh, talk it out and come back to it later. A timeout is a valuable tool. Uh, Football teams use it all the time. Sporting events do. People, you should use it at work too. There are times how many you're really angry at work, and what you can do is do a timeout. If you're the one that has to take it, so be it. But it's best to do that because if you continue to argue or yell, then that becomes um, domestic uh, violence towards the kids. Meaning by that, it's not necessarily the parents hitting each other, but it's yelling in front of the kids, and it is not a nice thing. And I found that out. I was initially charged with that, but that later came down the road. The thing that I was charged with, my wife and I were charged with, was negligence of having my parents' belongings that could endanger the kids. They were looking for everything. They were looking for everything. It's the worst thing to do is that when you get involved in because the allegations kept going and going. The time in 2010 to 2015 when they stole my children. And what they did, they used deception because the social workers were insisting there was something terrible going on in my home and wanted access. So they called the police department and they duped the police department thinking there was extreme problem inside the household. And the detective, uh, they said he has a young son at school. So the detective drove to the school and he followed me. He followed me for quite some time, for about, 10, uh, 15 minutes, about 5 miles. And little did I know what he did. He called some black and white units, the other police, because he knew that I wouldn't stop for a strange car. And so they made a U-turn. It's kind of unusual. I saw them, but I was in the number 3 lane or the far lane to the right side of the road. And I pull over because anytime a policeman turns his lights on, you're supposed to pull over. So when I pulled over, I asked the officer what was up, and he said, "Did you know you ran a stop sign?" And I said, "Well, I don't think you're behind me if I did run a stop sign." And when I remembered, I used the 3 second rule: 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. So I thought I stopped sufficient time. And then that's what he said: "You need to talk to this guy back there." Now, I should have said to him, if I knew the law, that, all right, give me the ticket. I need to proceed on because I need to pick up my wife. She was waiting for me. Instead, this guy comes walking up in his combat boots and vest, very intimidating, with his badges, and says, "Come with me to your back to your home." I said, "I need to pick up my wife." "Forget about your wife." That's how rude and how mean they were. And my son was terrified. My 9-year-old son that was in the car, and so we, I should have asked, "Do you have a warrant? Have you signed by the judge? Do you have anything there?" Because I should have done that. But with policemen and government workers, you tendency want to trust them. I mean, you trust everybody from the president all the way down to the lowest person in government because you think they're legit and they know what they're doing. The same thing with policemen. But it seems like there's a lot of policemen that are involved and they do palsy wowsy with social services. So I followed them back to my home, and when I approached my home, it was in a private neighborhood. There was the fire truck with 5 firemen. There was 2 code enforcement, 3 social workers, 2 uniformed policemen, and of course the detective. And all in front of my home. And I was saying, well, gee, maybe my home's broken into. Maybe there's a fire or something there. Of course, the whole neighborhood saw it because of the fire trucks and police vehicles. And everybody's dressed in fatigues like they get ready to go battle or something. So they insisted going to my house. And at that time, I did not know you're supposed to have a court order or you're supposed to have um, um, a warrant that's signed by a judge. So anyway, um, I didn't really have anything to hide. I don't know what effect my parents' belongings would do, but they came into my yard, and of course, when they came in there, they looked and they saw that my yard is a little overgrown. I couldn't afford the landscaper. I had these guys that used to take care of my yard, but I couldn't afford them anymore, and so it was overgrown. The gate was loose, and there was things in the yard with tarps over it, and things on the porch that were covered and stuff. We went into the house, and downstairs there were some boxes stacked and some furniture. And while the firemen were measuring smoke alarms to see if they're installed correctly, to see if they're too close to walls or something, code enforcement was checking to see if you had a lock on the back door, the entrance to the pool. They want to make sure you had a gate and everything else. So it was really, really, really sad that uh, they were trying to intimidate you. And, they checked the house and went into the master bedroom. They said, oh, this is a nice master bedroom, double doors. They got on my wife and I's white lounge chair with their combat boots and put dirt all over it, stained it. And then they broke the bamboo. And the one comment was, look at the nice pool. Look how pretty the house is. Vaulted ceilings and so forth. It was a beautiful home. There's no question about that. And we were struggling. But instead of them helping, instead of them offer to straighten things out, they were determined to get me and take our children away. Their alternative motive was to get money because when the kids are in their custody, they get money from the federal and state. It's not small chump change. And so that day, they picked up the 2 other kids at their schools. One was at high school, private high school. One was at middle school. One was at elementary school. Well, he was with me. So they took my son. He was lost. He didn't know what's going on. The children didn't know what's going on. Then they're hauled off to a shelter. Now, the shelter happened to be right next door to a prison. And the play area was bee infested. There was beehives out there that could possibly endanger the children. The place was not clean. It was overcrowded, strange foods, and the kids, it terrified them. They didn't know what's going on. They didn't say anything, oh, we're just investigating and we'll get you back with your parents. There was no insurance at all. They were kept completely in the dark. That's their purpose. They want to alienate you from your parents for the sole purpose of getting them into foster care and adopting you. And that is tough. That's a tough thing to swallow. And so, with that being said, uh, we as parents tried to visit them that night. We were able to, but we had to go through a lot of red tape to go see our children. We tried to assure them that whatever the problems are, that mom and dad work it out, we'll get you back. Well, this went on for a couple of days until they had what's called a safety plan. After the allegations are made, and these allegations, by the way, can either be made by professionals or lay people, and they don't have to be true for social services to investigate. Anything that's called in, they have to respond within 24 hours. Now, teachers may notice a child in school with burnt fingers or with bruises or not wearing proper clothing or looks really starving or something like that. They will all have to call in a doctor. If you test positive for drugs, we'll have to call it in to social services. And policemen do the same and so forth. Um, Keep in mind, if you're having a child and you're investigating with CPS and you're in the delivery room, the social worker will come out and take the child from you while you're giving birth. is the most horrible thing I've ever seen or witnessed. I've had a lot of people in the show tell about they took our child when she had her birthing material and blood everywhere. They're not supposed to be in the delivery room. They're not supposed to be. They can be at the hospital reception desk or a lobby. They need to have a court order, a warrant. But keep in mind, if you have children, um, you don't want to have more children if you have an open CPS case because it'll take your child at birth. If you're tested positive for drugs when you're having your child, then you should have been tested long before that. But let's say you tested, then they're going to attempt to try to take your children. Again, they have to have a court order to do so. So, with that being said, um, there are a lot of things legally, illegally that they're not supposed to do. Your constitutional rights will be violated. That's why it's so important to have an attorney. That's why you need somebody that knows the laws, knows how to navigate CPS. Because CPS is not your friend. They will not help you out. They have programs, uh, and they have one called the court appointed, um, see, court appointed server, uh, a service associate, sometimes nicknamed a CASA, and they're supposed to help you. See, a lot of the things they have set up for is for families that don't have mom and dads that care. It's like Boys Town. They're for the people that don't have mothers and fathers. But you may have a mother and father that love their children dearly, and they have hiccup problems. What I mean by that, let's say they do drugs. Now, I tried to tell people that you got to stay away from drugs, at least in the home around your children, until they're over the age of 21. It's illegal for a child 18 under to be around drugs. Now, same thing with alcohol and tobacco. Again, that's for 21. Now, um, you as parents can't do it in the household when they're around. You also can't have accessories to drugs or cigarette and stuff around too. So that is a no there. So it's really important that um, that you put away the drugs and to your children grown up and moved on. So with that being said, um, uh, that's one thing they do bust a lot of children on and things like that. So you have to remember they have to have a court warrant to invade your home, to invade where you're having your child, to take you into custody and stuff like that. They have to arrest you. Sometimes people are out of prisons and social workers want to take the children away because the person was incarcerated and they get home from prison and then it becomes a problem. So, with that being said, it was really a harsh, rude awakening until that following week we had what's called a safety planning meeting. That's where they determined where to put the children. Now, there's several ways they can put the children. One way is with a family member, and that's usually the best way. A family member, like a grandparent, or another sister and aunt of the parents, or something like that. They got to be 21, and they got to um, they got to be able to take care of the children, house them, and so forth. So that's the best plan to do. We did that with her three children. We put them with my wife's sister and her husband, and they try to take care of them. But it's a lot of work taking care of children, fixing the meals, taking them to school, helping out with their homework, clothing and so forth. And they were pretty good for about a month and a half, but they got burnt out. And then our kids had to move on to what's called a group home, which I'll talk to you later. Now, another thing they can do is that if they're Native American Indian children, they can be given to the tribe, and the tribe will take care of them. Now, they need to be qualified. They need to have Indian blood from a relative who's an Indian, and they either got to be registered or could be registered by the tribe. And it's your constitutional right to ask CPS workers to contact your tribes. And they'll send out letters asking if the child or the parents of the child are registered or could be registered. And they're supposed to do that because if a child is given to a tribal member on tribal land, then what will happen is the child will probably come back better. They're not in there for money, and it's a good way. They always seem to take care of their own. So that is one thing you have to think about. So that's another way you can put your children. They can be with a family member or with the Indian tribe, and that is because there was an act passed called ICWA, the Indian Child Welfare Act of 1979, and that act stated that that Indian children, have to be first contact the tribe and see if they will help intervene when there's some allegations of child abuse or neglect. Those are the two things they look for: is child abuse and child neglect. And I'll get to those 2 points in just a second because I want to mention about um, several things here I did at the beginning of the show. And one is that you can type in comments. I'll read them and try to answer as best as I can. So type in your name and the state and the city you're from and what your allegations are and what children are involved and what your question is, and I'll try to answer it. Also, that's one way to interact. Another way is that if you want to talk right now, you can call in at 626 698 0990, and I can put you on the show live. Use my speakerphone with my phone. I can put you live there. And so that's another way you can interact. Now, if you don't want to talk, that's all right. There's no problem. It's hard sometimes to talk. It also hurts everything on that. It see me hearing my story over and over. It really does hurt because I was wrongly done. And so anyway, the other way, if you want to talk later on the show as a guest, I'd love to have you. You call in the office at 888-888-6582 and make sure you tell them your name, Bob. Put my name, Bob Pace, sent you. That way, they make sure they get you on my show. Now, I'm on my show 7 days a week, twice a day. One at 10 in the morning and one at 7 o'clock at night. They're an hour-long shows, Pacific Standard Time. The only difference is on Sunday, my show starts at 10:30 because there's another show before that. So on Sunday, is a little bit of different time there. So, okay, we may have someone calling in. Hello? Hello, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me? Let me try to turn you up. Hold on. Yeah, I hear you now. Yeah, I can hear you. I'm going to take off my headset so not to cause feedback here. Okay. Yeah. It says you're from Georgia.
Yes.
What city are you from? Eastman. Well, welcome. I'm glad you called in. Can you tell me what your allegations are?
My kids got taken away. My daughter 4 months old and my son was a month old. And my husband's cousins has them, and they have temporary custody.
Okay.
I am needing to try to get them back.
All right. Now, what are the allegations? What did CPS said that you did wrong for them to take your children?
They really didn't say.
Well, they violated one of your constitutional rights. Before a child can be removed, they got to have a court order, first of all, a warrant, and they got to have a reason for taking them. Now, do you have an attorney?
No, I do not.
So they're supposed to provide you a public defender. And be careful.
They never did.
Well, they need to. They need to because that's the second violation of your constitutional rights. And So
Yeah.
they put your two children in the custody of one of your family members, which is good. They're not in CPS's hands. But
But the bad part is they're refusing to let us see them.
well, they're supposed to allow you to see them. I don't know what your allegations are. Um, they never said anything to you. They did something wrong.
No, it's just like I guess when me and my husband like argue, but it's nothing physical.
Okay, but you really don't want to argue in front of your kids. That is something negative there, but that shouldn't be enough to take them out of your presence or out of your home. It has to be something extreme that they would take it, something that they're in danger. Um,
Yeah, they were well taken care of. I made sure they had everything they need.
yes, it sounds like you do, and you care about them. How long ago was this?
My daughter is 1 year old, and she's been gone since she was 4 months old.
Okay, so this
And
incident.
my son is 2 months, and he was taken last month.
Okay, so on two separate occasions they took your children.
Yes.
Okay, so the first time they took your children, and you don't know what the reason they did. Have you asked for a public defender?
Yes, and they're refusing us to give us one.
Well, that's wrong. That's violating the thing. You probably don't have funds to hire a professional lawyer, right?
No, me and my husband get SSI.
Yeah, that's very limited there. I understand that feeling there. You need to get legal help. Is there some family members that can help you with a loan or anything? You have access to anything that you could get a professional lawyer to work in your case?
No.
Okay. Not to fret. You got paper and pencil?
Yeah.
I'm going to try to help you. Um,
Okay.
First of all, your first step is to find out who your social worker is.
When they took him, they closed the cases.
They can't close the case without due process. You're entitled to due process in the court.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, there's.
Because they both of them got temporary custody of them.
You see, it takes some time. They have to do family reunification, and they're violating your constitutional rights on a lot of fronts. There, they took your children without a warrant. They took your children without telling what the reasons are, and they had a family plan where they put your children. They haven't had a court date to prove. They have a court date to investigate you and have a plan set up so that you could get your children back. They've done none of that to you, and they not even told you about a public defender.
No, they did not.
Have you been to the courthouse? Do you know where the dependency court is?
No, I did not.
Or the family court? You need to find out the family court where it is, and you need to see the public defender's office and ask you like to speak to an attorney that's on your case. Every case is assigned an attorney. So
we didn't get told what ours was because we don't get told anything.
I understand. There's sometimes they do that to people that are not too knowledgeable about things, and so what you do is you go to the courthouse. You look for family dependency court, and then you ask for the public defender's office, and then you go into the public defender's office and say, I'd like to speak to the public defender that's handling my case. Then you meet with that public defender and find out what he's going to do, what the allegations are, and what your current plan is.
I guess because the allegations because we were not dead.
Well, I understand you may not be fit, but that's not necessarily a reason to keep children away. You can take parenting classes. Being homeless is not a reason.
We're doing that now.
Yeah, well, being homeless or low income is not a reason to take away your kids. They're supposed to help you with that.
Yeah.
Social service based on your income is supposed to give you food stamps, medical, and those kinds of things. They're required by law, and they give them to all the people out there. So you have to ask for those things. So you have to first find out where your case is. Then they'll say who you're.
It was in Eastern, but where they moved Terry and Warner Robson.
Well, who are they? Are your children's name?
Where they're at. One with one cousin, one with the other cousin.
Okay. Well, if they're with family member, that's a good sign because you can get your kids back. If the family members agree to take care of them until you get your hiccups solved, then you can get your kids back.
That's already done. They were refusing.
Who was using? I mean, I confused what you were saying there.
They're using a lot of steel.
They're using a lot of. I don't understand the last word you said. Using a lot of what?
They're refusing a lot of get them back, and they ain't letting us see them.
Well, that's wrong. They have to have a court order. Have you asked for them who refuse you? Can I see the court order that says you can?
No, we have the right to see them, but they won't.
Well, right, because you have to exercise your rights. That's why you need an attorney. And since you don't have money to hire a professional attorney, you have to go with the public defender assigned to your case. And you have to go into the courts, find the dependency court, ask her where the public defender's office is, and then I like to find my case. The cases are usually by your last name.
Okay.
So you first need to find that case and find out what it says. And you got to meet with the public defender and see what you need to do next. They should have, sent you or accused you of allegations. They should have sat down with you and had a planning meeting where to put your children down, where they're helping you fix your allegations. And they're all fixable. There's nothing, it's not the end of the world. They're supposed to reunify the family. That's the constitutional right. And if they don't, then they violate your constitution. Well, what happened is that
we haven't even been to court for it.
Well, in order for them to take the children, you told me that you no longer can have your children. They have to have a court order to take away the parents' rights. So they haven't had that yet. So I don't think your children, I think all they're doing is they're duping you and tricking you and lying to you.
I think so too.
And I don't know how it's, you said Eastman is the city?
Eastman, Georgia.
Eastman. Is there a county court there? What is the county's name called?
County, I guess. I'm not really for sure.
Well, you got to find the county because that's where your case is. And you got to find it. And also the clerk, the court clerk has all the paperwork relating to your case. And you can ask for copies of it. And if you're low income, they won't charge you. You get the copies free. But there you can find all your paperwork from the clerk. You need to gather all the information up. And then what you're going to have to do is talk to a public defender. If you can't, then you can come back to my show because I'm on 7 days a week and tell me what you found, what you have, and I can try to help you out further. It's a very slow, very, very bad process. But if you're willing to do that much, you will get your kids back. You just have to be persistent. And you just got to be careful what you tell them. Don't divulge. Do not sign anything. If they try to trick you and say, "Well, you get your children back if you sign this," don't sign anything. Don't sign a professional service agreement with them, a PSA. There's a lot of things you don't do. What's going to happen, depending on the if there is a court order, then we can modify that court order plan. We use what's called a petition 388, and that's the form you use to enter into court. Court is very complex, just like open heart surgery. That's why you need an attorney to help you because it's virtually impossible to do it on your own. I tried to for a year and a half. And I finally had to hire an attorney, and I had to sell my home for it. I lost my home and lost one of my 3 children. So it's a very bad thing you're going through. My allegations were made up. I didn't have real allegations, but they have to investigate anybody that alleges something. So, um, you know,
Yeah.
I don't want you to give up on this matter or anything else.
I
Do you know how it started? I mean, how did it all start? Do you know from day one?
cops getting called for no reason.
Was there a disturbance in the neighborhood? Were you guys arguing and the police were called or what?
They never liked us, anyways. We don't fight. We just like argue. That's it, and it don't last long.
Yeah, but
So we
that's
don't do it in front of the kids.
yeah. Well, that's definitely that's domestic violence. It's called verbal violence and verbal abuse. The kids are getting exposed to it, but they're not supposed to, uh, arrest you about that. I mean, when you strike someone or hit someone, then they will. But CPS is going to investigate it, and you're not supposed to have that kind of violence happening. I really feel for you because I wish I had a magic wand that I could wave over you and it all get better. But it's very, very, very
Yeah.
hard where you're at um, with this allegations. But so the police came first before CPS did, right?
Yeah.
Well, what happens? The police probably saw your children and called CPS. Now, did you ever see CPS in your? Did you ever see CPS in your home?
Yeah. The day I got home with my son, DFAT showed up from. I think I got home from the hospital.
Right, and what you should have told them is that you can't enter my home. So you don't know that. But unless they have a warrant, they can't enter your
I
home.
let them in because they looked around so they didn't find nothing wrong. So.
I know, but the only thing they have come up was with that domestic violence of arguing in front of the kids, and that is a no. But that's a simple parenting class, and that's something to get your kids back in time. And if they're at your family members, then that's a good thing. But it should be only maybe 30, 60 days, and you take your parenting class and complete that, and then they'll use the 3-8 to amend your plan and get your kids back. But I'm really sorry that has happened to you. That's not right because you sound like you're loving parents and you love your kids. That's why you're on the show. That's why you're calling. You want your children back. And so it's a hard thing to go through. I feel for you and know what you're going through. But you're going to have to do some investigation on your part. It means some legwork. You're going to have to go to that county court where that county office is, a court there, the county court, and find the dependency court. That's a key word, dependency. And you want to find your case because there's got to be some records for your case there. And when you get the paperwork, you should also be entitled to a public defender. And you should meet with the public defender and see if they can help you. Just be careful because they're not your friend. Public defenders have a big, heavy caseload of sometimes 30 people or more on their case there. So it's really, really important that that you talk to them, but be awful careful what you say. Be awful careful because they're going to try to make it worse. You're going to mention I used to do drugs, and so they're going to start testing you for drugs. So you don't want to say things that
I've never done drugs.
Well, I'm not saying you did, but I'm just saying that's what the social workers try to look at is the person's done drugs and stuff. So it sounds like to me that the police were called by your neighbors or somebody heard you guys arguing. So they called the police for disturbing the peace. And so if you're arguing and yelling at each other, it's called disturbing the peace. You can be arrested for that. But they probably called social workers because they found you had young children there. And then social workers got an allegation. By law, teachers and policemen and firemen have to call in social workers if they see something that is endangering class through either neglect or abuse. So that's why the police were contacted. And then when they saw that, they probably contacted the social workers and said there's a case. Then your social workers, they must have came out to your home and took your kids, and you probably did not know that you could have said, no, you're not taking my kids unless you got a court warrant. So they didn't show any paperwork for the court, right?
No, I did not.
Yeah, well, it's a horrible lesson to learn, but you're not supposed to give your children to anybody that doesn't have the proper identification or the proper court order to take your children. So apparently the CPS has buffaloed you and your partner and duped the police to do their dirty work. So what you need to do is you need to play a little part of being a detective to research your case and get more information, because you should see some paperwork regarding the court to put a plan together. There should be something about your child being taken by them. There should be some of that stuff. So that's why it's very important. You ask for the paperwork, and you ask to speak to the public defender, and it's in the public defense office. They'll have a bunch of lawyers there, and you need to speak to one that might be handling your case. But I'd step one, get all the documents from the clerk, the court clerk for dependency court. They'll give it to you free if you're low income, and it's small change if you need copies. But you get all the paperwork, and then what I do is I put it in date order, highlight it, and go through it and find out what they did. You got a timeline. You start building a timeline. You start trying to understand things. And so
what we got told was our daughter, we had to get our own place and did a council. We had our place since the last year of August.
Why does your daughter have to get her own place? Did your daughter live with you?
Yes.
Are you talking about an older daughter or your young daughter?
I have a son and a daughter.
Right, but they're young, so they don't get a
one's a year old.
Right, they don't get a home.
A year.
They don't get a home. You provide them the home. Did the social worker ever tell you why the kids could not stay at your home?
We had to have our own place.
Oh, you didn't have a place when you had your kids?
We was living with my husband's dad.
Okay, well, that's all right. Extended families are okay. They should not penalize you because you're living with your extended family. Did you have a separate room for the kids?
They were in the room with us. I just had my son 2 months ago.
Oh, okay. So you had another child too.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Yeah, your case is getting really.
I have a 2-year-old daughter and a 2-month-old son.
Right. Well, your case is getting more complex as I talk to you, but it's something that can be resolved. You don't have to. You do have to worry, but there is hope. But you gotta be a fisherman and get those documents. Find out who the social workers are. Find out who your court-appointed attorney, your public defender, and you really need to do that right away, because time is important to you, because where they're at, the social services could take them out if there's hiccups with the family they're staying at. So you got to be careful there. So now, do you have access to a computer?
I did, but my laptop's broke.
Well, if you have a friend that has a computer, you're going to spend some time and Google things. You need to Google. A lot of the information you need is on Google. And, he says, like, you type in how to handle a CPS case, a Child Protection Service case, how to get your kids back from CPS. How to deal with CPS. There's a lot of topics that you can look up, and you start educating yourself to get your kids back. Also, another valuable tool, and also with a lawyer, is you need a notebook. You need to write down the date and time, the people involved, the incident, and the outcome of the incident. It's very important that you write all that stuff down. The date and time and the incident and what became of it and the people. It's very important to have that, because your case will last longer than 1 or 2 months or 3 months. It may last 3 years. Mine was 3 years actively till I got my kids back. So it's very, very important that you have um, some type of a notes what you deal with, so that way you can defend yourself. And where they violated your civil rights, that can be used too, because they can, if they violate your civil rights, they can be sued, because you're protected by the Constitution, and the Constitution has rights that protect you or anybody. The Constitution is open to anybody. It's no longer certain kinds of people. Anybody that's a citizen of the United States has the Constitution that works for them. It's supposed to protect your rights, and your rights are well protected there. Now, what do you and your husband um, plan to do with your kids? Do you have a place for them?
Yes, we do.
Okay, and are you able to provide food and education for them?
Yes, because we both get food stamps, and my kids are on WIC.
Okay, and you have an education so they can go to school. They need to go to school, and they need to be housed. It doesn't have to be a fancy house, and it is that is good. I'm glad to hear that. And of course, they have to be fed and taken care of, and go to the doctors with medical and so forth. And
Yes.
if you're on Social Security and you're with Social Security, they should provide medical for your kids.
They are.
Okay, well that is really, really, really good. I'm glad to hear that. But I don't want you to give up. It's a horrible thing that he did to you. It's not the end of the world, but you want your kids back. You give birth, you have a daughter and a son, and it sounds like you love them very, very much. And it's really hard what you're going through with them. Is there any other questions? Because I'm getting close to the end of the show. I have about 2 minutes left. Is there anything else I can help you with, or anything else? Now, do you write down?
No.
Do you write down those 2 numbers? Because one number is my office to be a guest speaker if you want to be on. The other number is my office number. You can call during it. But I want you to get back to me. Don't not afraid to give me a call.
Okay.
And I'll try to help you as best as I can. There are things that I have. Also, there's people in this room that have said things too. And we had energetic remedies, and it said, "Thank you, Bob." So that was really nice. I'm glad to hear that someone's getting something out of the show. I just read one of the comments that someone posted, and so forth. I'm going to take.
Yeah, my daughter's my miracle baby. I call her my miracle baby.
Oh, that's sweet. That's sweet. That really is.
Because I got told I couldn't have kids.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that you have kids. I had kids later in life too. I have my young children and my older children, and so my wife is 15 years younger than me, and so we were still having children until I was in my 60s. So I know what it is. I love children. I love families, and it's really important that you get your
my babies.
Yeah, it's important to get your family back. Well, I'm going to sign off on the show because I got to end it because we're about a minute left here. For all you listeners out on the show, we've had a speaker tonight talk, and she's from Georgia, and she has her 2 babies taken, and she's going to need a lot of help because she has to find out who her social worker is, who her public defender, and the paperwork, and try to get her kids back. Thank you for the energetic remedy and all the people here tonight. I think we've got much as 7 people tonight that are listening. I'm on every day of the week, twice a day, one at 10 in the morning and one again at 7 at night. The only difference is on Sunday I come on at 10:30. And I'd love to have any of you as a guest speaker. You can call 888-888-6582. Now, as I said early on the program and several other times, it's very important that you have an attorney as a tool for you because you need to negotiate and fight through CPS. It's very complex. It's just like a person that is having open heart surgery. They need a professional doctor to perform it. Someone that's gone through medical school, gone through internships, and um, you know, is made a medical doctor with a license and everything. So that attorney we have is Vincent W. Davis. He is a champion fighter against CPS. He has gotten kids back, and he has fought CPS in civil suits. And he's in Southern California, but you go Northern California or any of the 50 states. Um, to reach him, he's offering a free consultation. He usually charges for this. But if you call in at 888-888-6582, tell them that Bob Pace sent you. It's very important to do that. Then they'll set you up with a date and time with him. And so, he'll give you that 30-minute to an hour free consultation um, of strategies of how to get your kids back and how to fight CPS. It's really important with that. And the thing is so important to call it 888-888-6582 and make that appointment with Mr. Davis. And you'll be happy you did. You'll probably want to retain him too. So, with that being said, I'm going to end our show. We're on again tomorrow morning at 10. And I want everybody to have much success in the upcoming year and much happiness. And don't give up fighting CPS or getting your kids back. God bless you, and you take care this evening.